You've got your Yasmeen, who decided to just dip at the top of her game. Like, goodbye, I'm done. Then you've got your Karen Molders, who had enough and spilled all the dirty secrets of the modeling industry. And of course, there's Naomi Campbell, who stayed in it for years, but somehow ended up tangled in scandals, lawsuits, and, well, a whole lot of drama. But hold up. There's one model who didn't just survive the industry, she owned it. We're talking about Claudia Schiffer. Yep, that's right. From her very first runway walk for Chanel to becoming Karl Lagerfeld's muse, Claudia made her mark. And while everyone else was either dropping out or getting caught up in mess after mess, Claudia just kept going. Fast forward, and she's now the new ambassador for Hailey Bieber's skincare brand, Rhode. And wait for it, still holds the record for the most magazine covers in history. So you gotta ask yourself, who is Claudia Schiffer? How the heck did she manage to finesse an industry that's all about using up young talent and tossing them aside like yesterday's news when the next big thing comes along? And here's the kicker, she did it all without getting dragged into the wild supermodel drama that we know so well. Listen, I've always loved Claudia's story. There's something so fascinating about how she managed to do the impossible. While others got caught up in toxic cycles, Claudia just kept on winning. But how did she pull it off? And what made her so different from the others? I'm telling you, it's a mix of sheer talent, impeccable timing, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit of swagger. So, grab your popcorn, because we're about to dive into how Claudia Schiffer became the supermodel who didn't just survive the industry, but completely redefined it. Trust me, this one's not your average fashion story. Humble beginnings. A lawyer or a legend? Claudia's story starts in Rheinberg, Germany, a quiet town where dreams of the catwalk were definitely not part of the local vibe. Her dad was a lawyer, and her mom ran the household. Naturally, Claudia thought she'd follow in her dad's footsteps. She even worked at his law firm part-time. But life had other plans. At 17, while celebrating a friend's birthday at a nightclub in Dusseldorf, she was scouted by Michelle Levitin, head of Metropolitan Models. Can you imagine? You're just out, vibing, and suddenly someone's like, hey, want to be a supermodel? Her parents were skeptical. Understandably. Who wouldn't be? But after some convincing, and probably a few nervous meetings, they let Claudia head to Paris. She says,
they were very supportive and said basically, you decide. If you want to do it, we're totally behind you. Even my mother came with me in the beginning and helped me out, going around Paris, because I came from a small town. I didn't know how the subway station worked. I didn't know how to go around Paris, how to do all of these things.
Okay, I know you're probably wondering about the whole pink cloud situation in the background. So here's the tea. It's not just some random aesthetic I'm throwing out there. That's actually a little tribute to Claudia herself. Her best friend calls her Cloudy. So I thought, why not bring a bit of that soft, effortlessly cool Claudia energy into the video?
The cloud that I got from my kids. My best friend always used to call me Cloudy.
And the pink? Well, let's just say Barbie. You'll get it in a moment. The breakthrough from Elle to Chanel. All right, let's talk about how Claudia Schiffer went from a small-town law student to one of the most recognizable faces in fashion history. It all started in 1988 when she landed the cover of Elle magazine. Imagine you're barely 18, new to modeling, and suddenly you're on the cover of Elle. No big deal, right?
It's a big deal!
Well, that one cover was the start of something huge. After Elle, Claudia became the go-to face for fashion editors and designers. She started appearing on more covers, and not just any covers. Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, Cosmopolitan, you name it. By 1989, she was the face of the Guess campaign, which truly made her a household name. Photographer Ellen von Unwerth captured her in those now iconic black and white photos, describing her as a healthy German girl with a stunning smile. That campaign didn't just launch Claudia, it turned Guess into a global phenomenon.
Guess name became really much more known around the world because Claudia. From the first Polaroid we had on that day, we knew that we find a major star. She was everything I wanted. I mean, I wanted somebody absolutely sensual, tall, confident, healthy. Everything I wanted for Guess was exactly that. But she had a phenomenal, from that picture, phenomenal similarity with the peak of the pictures of Brigitte Bardot.
Of course, people couldn't stop comparing her to Brigitte Bardot. At first, Claudia wasn't thrilled. I mean, imagine constantly being told you look like someone else. But eventually she leaned into it, calling it a huge compliment.
Well, I was 17, 18 when I did all these Guess jeans campaigns, and everyone was saying, "Oh, she looks like Brigitte Bardot." And in the beginning, I thought, "No, I want to be myself. I don't want to be compared to someone else." And And as I was sort of growing older and understanding it all, I thought, actually, this is a huge compliment and an amazing thing that anyone could say about.
And honestly, she had the same magnetic, effortless charm as Bardot, just with a little more polish and a lot less scandal. Now, let's fast forward to 1990. This is where everything changes. Enter Karl Lagerfeld, the creative genius behind Chanel. He took one look at Claudia and said, "That's the Chanel woman," and just like that, she became his muse.
She's the one.
Before stepping onto the runway, Claudia starred in a few campaigns for Chanel. She shot her first ever campaign with Karl in Deauville, and they bonded instantly.
And I remember when I first met him, he somehow thought there was something special about me and said, you know what, I'd like you immediately to start tomorrow. You got to go to Deauville and we're going to shoot the Chanel campaign. And as the day went on, I warmed up a little bit more. We then spoke German together and realized that we had a lot of things in common and lots of energy, and we both didn't drink. We didn't do anything naughty. At 3 o'clock in the morning, we were still up and running and full of energy, and everyone else was getting very tired. And he said to me, "Yeah, you're just like me. You know, very German, Teutonic, and disciplined." It was that sort of bonding moment that started a long relationship together.
Those campaigns solidified her as the face of Chanel, setting the stage for her next big move, walking the runway. But here's the tea. Claudia had never walked a runway before, and she didn't want to. Yep, the thought of walking down a catwalk terrified her. She was young, shy, and had no idea how to do it. But Karl wasn't having it. He convinced her to give it a try, saying, "Just imagine you're walking to school." And that's what she did. Her first ever runway show was for Chanel. Let that sink in. Your first show is for Chanel. No pressure, right?
I never wanted to do fashion shows, and it's Karl Lagerfeld who said, "You really should, and come on, let's do it," and convinced me. And I was very nervous before. I had no idea, because there were all these incredible fashion models that knew how to walk so perfectly, and I had no idea how to do that. And I still don't know how to do that, really.
From that moment on, Claudia was everywhere. Chanel campaigns, magazine covers, and the biggest runways in the world. As she put it, Karl was sort of my magic dust.
Karl Lagerfeld was sort of my magic dust. I was a very shy girl, and transformed me from this shy girl into a supermodel.
And honestly, it's hard to imagine Chanel's legacy without her. But while Claudia was gracing the catwalks and breaking new ground for the fashion world, something bigger was unfolding, a whole new era. The 90s weren't just about being famous, they were about becoming untouchable. Supermodel stardom, the golden era of fashion. Let's fast forward to the 90s, the era of supermodels. Claudia Schiffer wasn't just part of the conversation, she was the conversation. By this point, she had joined the elite ranks of what we now call the Big Six of modeling. Naomi Campbell, Cindy Crawford, Linda Evangelista, Christy Turlington, Helena Christensen, and of course, Claudia herself. These women weren't just models. They were icons, the faces of fashion, and the original influencers before Instagram was even a thought. Claudia described the camaraderie with her fellow models as unique. "It really became like seeing your friends every day," she once said. And apparently, they had each other's backs. She recalled calling her friends to warn them about certain photographers or shows. "Don't work with this one, they copied everything from Versace," she'd tell them. It was like the group chat of the supermodel world. And speaking of Versace, Gianni Versace didn't just put on fashion shows, he created rock concerts. Claudia once said his runways were a mix of theater and pop culture. Imagine walking to a Prince track while hundreds of photographers flashed their cameras. It was electric. But this level of fame came with its quirks. Fans were obsessed. Claudia confessed that people used to steal her underwear backstage. "I'd come back and my bra and knickers would be gone," she said. And yes, she eventually had to hire security for her lingerie. Now let's talk about something the media loved back then, and apparently, some corners of the internet still do. Claudia's alleged rivalry with fellow model Valeria Mazza.
For the past few years, Claudia Schiffer has been one of the top 10 money earners in the world. Well, now there's a new model on her turf, and as Lauren Terry tells us, the competition isn't pretty.
Valeria was often dubbed the next Claudia Schiffer, and for a while, it seemed like every fashion editor wanted to pit the two against each other. The media spun all sorts of narratives, from claims that Claudia refused to work with Valeria, to rumors that she pulled strings to block Valeria from certain campaigns. Of course, none of this was ever proven, but it made for juicy headlines. And let's be honest, the fashion world loves a good rivalry story. Fast forward to today, and the internet hasn't let go. Some TikToks and blog posts still try to vandalize Claudia's reputation, suggesting she was cutthroat and sabotaged younger models. But here's the thing. Both Claudia and Valeria have repeatedly denied any bad blood. In fact, they've both said they respect each other's work and have always been on good terms. Valeria once said,
I mean, the truth is, like, at the beginning, when the people start to compare me with Claudia, we can say it, I don't have any problem. I don't feel bad about that. For me, it was like, it was a compliment. She's a beautiful woman. She's a great model. So I just say that I feel, good. Like, I just started, they comparing me with Supermodel, Claudia. So, there's two different persons, one's Valeria, one is Claudia, and we're all happy. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Claudia has stayed her classy self, never feeding into the drama.
Why should it that name?
Is there any chance that David may mistake Valeria for you?
Good joke.
So, while the media wanted a catfight, what they actually got was two women thriving in their own lanes. Now let's talk money.
Money talks, people.
Claudia wasn't just walking runways and gracing magazine covers. She was making serious bank. By the early 90s, she was earning a jaw-dropping $20,000 per runway show and landing multi-million-dollar contracts with brands like Chanel, Guess, and Revlon. And why not? She knew her worth. She also released 4 series of fitness lessons, which almost instantly became bestsellers. I mean, who wouldn't want to learn how to work out like a supermodel, right? And if that wasn't enough, in 1992, she signed a $6 million contract with Revlon, officially becoming the highest-paid model in the world.
You go, girl!
Claudia famously stood her ground when it came to payments, proving that models could and should be compensated fairly for their influence. She helped set a precedent for other supermodels to negotiate better deals, paving the way for the kind of lucrative opportunities we see today.
Get a bag, you get a bag, you get a bag.
What made Claudia stand out in this golden era was her ability to balance accessibility with mystique. She was glamorous but relatable, disciplined but never robotic. She was the model who worked hard, stayed scandal-free, and let her talent speak for itself. This era didn't just cement Claudia as a supermodel, it turned her into a cultural phenomenon. Whether she was gracing the cover of Vogue for the umpteenth time, walking a Chanel runway, or starring in a Guess ad, Claudia wasn't just part of the fashion world, she was the fashion world. Now, you might think that with all the success, Claudia had it all figured out. But sometimes, even the most iconic figures have to make decisions that leave the world wondering, what if so? Let's talk about the stories that still has fashion lovers reeling to this day. The missed opportunities and unmatched legacy. All right, let's talk about the bag story that haunts fashion lovers to this day. Picture this. Hermès comes knocking, asking to name a bag after you. It's the kind of honor only a handful of icons like Jane Birkin and Grace Kelly have received. And Claudia? She turned it down. Yes, you heard that right. Her agent said no, and she actually listened.
No! God, please, no! No!
Claudia herself later admitted, ignore your agent and say yes. It's a sad story, and I almost feel bad for her. But let's pause for a second because I have a few burning questions. What would the bag have looked like? Was the bag ever made and quietly renamed something else? Hermès? We need answers.
We need answers!
And most importantly, who today would be worthy of a namesake Hermès bag? Drop your nominations in the comments. Speaking of decisions Claudia regrets, here's another one. She turned down a role in George Michael's Freedom music video. Yep, the one that featured Naomi Campbell, Cindy Crawford, and Linda Evangelista. Claudia later admitted she wished she'd been part of that iconic moment in pop culture.
At the time, I was the face of Chanel, and the advice was I could be jeopardizing my high fashion position by doing a pop video. Then, when I saw it, I thought, I should have done this.
But that's not all Claudia could have said yes to. She was offered $1 million by an Arab prince just to have dinner with him. $1 million for dinner. And she said no, wanting to stay true to her principles. But let me tell you, other models did take that offer. And honestly, if it were me, I'd probably be like, where's the reservation? $1 million is $1 million.
Don't judge me.
Now let's get back to Claudia's actual achievements because, let's face it, her resume makes most people's look like scribbles. She's graced more than 1,000 magazine covers. That's right, over 1,000. She even holds the Guinness World Record for it. Meanwhile, I bet most of us have, 20 pictures in our gallery right now? And let's not lie. At least 5 of those are awkward selfies we haven't had the heart to delete. Despite a few missed opportunities, Claudia Schiffer's legacy is untouchable. She became a supermodel in an era when that title actually meant something, broke records, and defined what it means to be iconic. From runway dominance to being the face of countless brands, Claudia's influence in fashion isn't just history. It's the gold standard. But even legends have their unexpected moments. and Claudia's journey didn't stop at the catwalk. You might think her life was all about glamorous shoots and high fashion parties, but what if I told you there's a chapter of her story that's just as enchanting, if not more so, than any runway? Now let's turn the page to the love story that captivated the world as much as her career did, one that takes an unexpected twist toward a real-life fairy tale. Personal life, from glamorous romances to a storybook ending. Claudia Schiffer's love life has been just as captivating as her career. Let's start with her high-profile engagement to magician David Copperfield. Yes, the world-famous illusionist. Their relationship wasn't just headline material, it was the stuff of legends. Claudia even joined him on stage as his assistant, taking part in illusions like being levitated and sawn in half. But their 5-year engagement wasn't without drama. A French magazine claimed their relationship was staged, alleging Claudia was paid to act as Copperfield's fiancée. Both of them sued the publication and won, securing a retraction and damages. Talk about turning the tables. After parting ways with Copperfield, Claudia's love life stayed in the spotlight. She dated Tim Jeffries, a London-based art dealer and heir, but the relationship didn't last. There were even rumors about flings with the likes of Peter Gabriel, Jon Bon Jovi, and Monaco's Prince Albert II. Clearly, Claudia had no shortage of admirers. But then, in true rom-com fashion, she met Matthew Vaughn at a party in Los Angeles. Vaughn, the man behind iconic films like Kick-Ass, Kingsman, and X-Men, swept her off her feet. Their love story culminated in a stunning wedding in 2002, with Claudia walking down the aisle in an ivory Valentino gown that looked straight out of a fairy tale. The designer even had the dress ready before she officially asked him.
Now is something I really want to share to you, which is my wedding dress. By Valentino, my dear friend. It was designed in Rome by his Valentino atelier. It took them 6 months to do. So when I told Valentino that I got engaged, first of all, he then threw me an engagement party, which was really sweet of him. And so on, I said to him, well, actually, I was going to ask you if you could design my wedding dress. And he said, funny you ask. I already did it.
Today, Claudia and Matthew are one of Hollywood's most enduring couples, raising a family while he continues to shine in the movie industry. But as their love story unfolds, Claudia's journey takes a turn that redefines what it means to be a true icon. Life beyond the catwalk. Claudia Schiffer may have retired from the runway, but she never retired from being an icon. Her post-catwalk life is proof that you can transition from supermodel to global powerhouse while staying timeless and relevant. Let's start with her incredible charity work. In 1997, Claudia became a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador, dedicating her platform to causes like AIDS awareness and poverty alleviation. She also joined campaigns like Make Poverty History and Live 8, using her fame for meaningful impact.
So here I am, I called UNICEF and I said, could we work together? I'd like to help. I've been so fortunate in my life and I've had such a great childhood that I want to give back a little bit of that to children that have been less fortunate.
And then there's the Barbie moment. Claudia, Naomi Campbell, and Karen Mulder were turned into actual dolls by Hasbro, with a portion of the proceeds going to the International Red Cross. If you're curious about what went down during the promo shoot for those iconic dolls, check out my previous video on Karen Mulder, the real-life Barbie with her own wild story, and it gets better. In case you missed it, Margot Robbie showed up at the Barbie movie events wearing an outfit totally inspired by Claudia. And get this, Claudia herself actually wore it first, and even shared the love on Instagram.
There were some incredible outfits that I actually got to wear that Claudia Schiffer herself, who's kind of like a real-life Barbie, wore. In fact, one of the archival suits that I wore had the little label saying Claudia on it, and I was like, wow. I remember even on set, there was this one look where I have a pink love heart-shaped Chanel bag. And I remember like all the girls on set was like, can I hold it?
Honestly, I would be exactly like them. And the thing is, Claudia has so many of those iconic pieces. I mean, she was literally the face of Chanel. Her influence isn't just in fashion campaigns. Her net worth reflects her business acumen, estimated at $70 million. From starring in Pepsi commercials to working with iconic brands like Chanel, Valentino, and Versace, Claudia became a household name. And speaking of Versace, she recently closed Donatella Versace's Spring 2024 show at Milan Fashion Week, reminding everyone why she's still the ultimate supermodel. And in case I forgot, Claudia has also been part of some enviable designer relationships.
I'm very lucky because I'm a model and I have worked in the fashion industry for a really long time. I know all the designers and it's really easy for me just to call them up and say, can you please send over what you got? And the thing is, they know my sizes, they know exactly what looks good on me, what doesn't, and what I like. So that's fairly easy, and then I just need to get the accessories together, whether it's handbags or jewelry or things like this. But
imagine being in her shoes, literally custom-fitted, designer perfection delivered right to your door. But here's a fun little twist. Did you know Claudia dabbled in acting? Yeah, she wasn't just about the runway and magazine covers. She popped up in a few films, including Richie Rich, 1994, but it was Love Actually, 2003, that gave her one of her most memorable screen moments. Originally, the script called for a character named Carol, who was meant to be a Claudia Schiffer lookalike. However, the director realized no one could quite capture Claudia's distinctive beauty. So guess what? He took a gamble and decided to call Claudia herself. To his surprise, she agreed to appear. In the end, Claudia made a cameo in the film, and for less than 60 seconds of screen time, she was paid handsomely, around $250,000. Her presence in Love Actually wasn't just a perfect fit, it was straight-up next-level star power. But hold up, let's talk about something else Claudia did that flew under the radar a bit. Remember the Fashion Cafe? Yeah, in 1995, Claudia teamed up with Naomi Campbell and Elle Macpherson to cook up this whole Fashion Cafe thing. Now, we all know the restaurant business is a beast, right? But with their star power and a super healthy menu, their New York City cafe was actually a hit. I mean, these were the 90s, and when Claudia, Naomi, and Ella walk into a room, it's like the whole place shines. Then Christy Turlington hopped on board, and soon they expanded to London and Barcelona. The grand opening in New York? It was timed to perfection after the final show of New York Fashion Week, so it basically became the after party. Think Gianni and Donatella Versace, Tyra Banks, Veronica Webb, the who's who of the 90s. But spoiler alert, despite all the glam, it ended up closing in 1998 because of bad management and a serious lawsuit situation. Yeah, CEO Tommaso Butti ended up facing $15 million in lawsuits from the partners. Yikes. Claudia, though, made a quick exit. Naomi and Elle stuck around a little longer. Classic fashion drama. And Claudia didn't stop there. Oh no. In 2013, she teamed up with German eyewear experts Rhode to create an exclusive collection of sunglasses and optical frames. I'm telling you, if you want to look chic and hide your hangover, these frames are the way to go. Then, in 2016, Claudia launched her own cashmere collection. And let me just say, these things look cozy and stylish. Like, I'm not saying this to get a sponsor or score a free sweater. Although if you're listening, Claudia, I'll happily accept. But those cashmere pieces are next level. Like, can you imagine wearing Claudia's cashmere while sipping your morning coffee in your apartment, pretending you have it all together? And here's the latest iconic move. In October 2024, Claudia Schiffer was announced as the new ambassador for Hailey Bieber's skincare brand, Rhode. Yep, Claudia, the legend herself, is fronting a campaign for Rhode's launch of the Barrier Butter. Hailey Bieber, in an interview with Vogue, shared that she specifically wanted someone who could bring that iconic energy to the campaign. I mean, it doesn't get more iconic than Claudia. From over 1,000 magazine covers, yes, she holds the Guinness World Record to being a Barbie doll and an ambassador for modern luxury. Claudia Schiffer has proven she's not just a name from the past, but a brand that continues to inspire. So, what's your favorite Claudia Schiffer moment? Her Guess ads? Her reign as the Rhode ambassador? Or maybe her Barbie legacy? Let me know in the comments.